Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Grianaig Creations podcast channel. My name is Kirsty, and this is not a typical episode. am joined by a very special guest and friend of mine. Hello, Ellen. Would you like to
Hi.
introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Ellen. I am the indie dyer behind Mrs. Lamb Yarns and the project bag maker behind KalokShekEllen. So it's
Very
nice to meet you all.
and nice to meet you. I have certainly not ranted, but raved about you on my podcast channel on several occasions. So everyone must know who you are by now.
Oh, I hope so.
And I think I have like probably the biggest stash of your bags.
You possibly do, including the prototypes.
Yes, I do actually. The green one, the canvas one that you made, the green one,
Yeah,
that is full of minis for my blanket project, and I absolutely adore that bag. Mind you, I adore so
awesome.
many of your bags, so it's hard to choose my favorite one.
Oh, they are. And I actually looked up, I was like, I need to make more.
And I will probably buy them.
Possibly, if you don't get tempted by the self stripes.
Oh, don't even get me started. I'm putting money aside just for those self-striping yarns.
Yay.
You can bet your bum I'm going to own every single one of
I
them in
will.
time.
Yeah. So,
Would you like to introduce your business and maybe explain to some of the people watching how you got started, how you chose the names, and why you chose to like make dye yarn and sew project bags?
initially I had the idea of doing yarn dyeing for a number of years before I actually started. Until I met a friend in our local knitting group. We were going to go in partnership to do it. However, her partner got a job very up north, so tried to move away. Um, like, well, I'll just do it myself. But behind the whole yarn dyeing business name is Mrs. Lamb Yarns, purely because it's a pun on a lamb, but I am married to a Mr. Lamb, Lam. So, so it just makes sense to just use that and as the yarn dyeing business. And you know, but for the project bags, I used my Chinese name with my English name as KalokShekEllen. It just has that nice ring to it, I think.
I've always
And
had, I've always felt like it had like a really nice ring to it, and it kind of like it does roll off the tongue. Like it's something, it's different. It's very different.
yeah,
And it's also, it's one that sticks in your mind as well because it's easy to say, it's easy to remember. Well, I think it is anyway.
yeah. Well, I'm sure most would agree to that as well, with the name. And once they've heard it once, they're like, oh yes, I know
Mm,
how to pronounce your name, and they feel good.
yep.
Um, um, I kind of wanted to have my Chinese heritage background integrated in one way or another. So with the married name, Mrs. Lamb, it yes, it does ticks that box for me. And the my initial Chinese name that my dad's given me um, is also in it as well, which means happiness and joy in its true essence. So the bags that I make, I would like to bring you joy and happiness in whatever you use it for, whether it be your projects or like just a bag for going out to the shops or even a cosmetic bag, travel bag, that it brings you happiness.
Yeah,
That's
that's so nice. I've never
yeah,
heard you
and
explain that side of it before.
no, I don't really explain that very well in like across the socials very much.
Mm,
Because I like to choose fabrics and prints and colors that I personally quite like, and it's eye-catching.
mhm.
That makes me feel happy. Going fabric shopping and going to fabric shops makes me feel happy. So I thought, well, I'll just buy.
All in all, the essence of the business is happiness.
It is, and I like sewing, so I can only have so many project bags myself. So you know,
Hmm.
I have to share some of it outright. Why not sell them? So the bags usually have the little wooden tags, which I'm sure Kirsty has shown off quite a lot. Is quite a unique touch, I think, because I don't see many other project bag makers with a wooden tag, or they do, but it's slightly different. But
Yeah.
these ones are quite, I've always liked my ones.
I've always liked your ones. Like I still vividly remember like how we met, which was at Perth Festival Yarn, and you came
Yeah.
up to my stall, and I think I lost it in the move, but it shows how long I've had that tag for. You gave me one of the wooden tags so that I would know how to find you online.
Yeah.
And I kept that tag for the longest time. Like if I've still got it, it's upstairs. I just can't think off the top of my head where it is. And I always thought how unique that was, because when I done bags, it was like recycled cork or something, like faux rubber. But
Yeah.
yet yours was sturdy, like it felt sturdy.
Yeah.
Whereas like mine had ripped once or twice. And I was just like, there's no way that you're gonna like break your wooden ones, because it's really good quality.
They are,
And
and
they're extremely different from what I've seen.
yeah, they are a bit of a pain to put onto zippers, but hey, it acts as a zipper pull in some instances, which is quite nice because you don't have to find a keychain or like make a thing to attach to the zippers, and it just makes it a lot nicer aesthetically, I think.
Yeah, I think it's got that very polished look about it and not cheap.
Yeah.
Like you know how some finishes can look really cheap, even if they're not. Like that one, your ones has a very. It's like you've put all the thought into how the finish look could be, and you've not gone, do you know what? I'm not going to what's the word people would use for that? I'm not going to deviate away from that. This is the look I want, and I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah, and I've stuck with it for so many years now that it's still working and it helps.
Yeah,
which is great. But yeah, the fabric choices are always from shops that I've been to myself and know are welcoming and inclusive, or people who are from marginalized backgrounds themselves, which really helps support the smaller indie businesses rather than the large corporations.
yeah.
But that is my own personal choice, and do my bit to support others where I can, essentially. But yeah, what other business questions was there?
As we're just talking about fabric and stuff like that, so obviously
Yeah.
you've said that you quite like the brights and the fun fabrics. Like, do you have a specific, whether it's like the makeup of the fabrics or like 100% cotton or anything like that? Do you have a favorite fabric or a favorite shop that you like to go to?
One of my favorite shops is now closed,
Oh
unfortunately,
no.
which was Cloth and Candy. She was based down in Croydon in London, but earlier this year she took the big decision to close the shop because she needed time for herself, unfortunately, having had a second child who where one of the essential organs was not functioning properly after birth.
Oh, that's a shame.
I think it was the brain. There
Oh.
was too much fluid in the brain in like whilst growing in the uterus. So as soon as it was born, they only had maybe a couple of hours or even half an hour with the child before it died. And she was grieving a lot. And yeah, she decided she needs some time to herself and just do her own thing really and be more creative. So yeah, very sad to see her go, but that's what one needs to do, then that what they need to do to heal themselves and with the family and to spend more time with their older son. He's quite a cheeky kiddie wink. But yeah, the other favorite fabric places are my local fabric shop, which are about half an hour's drive away. I prefer to use 100% cotton if I can. However, in some recent years, you may have seen me try my hand at using some of the sturdier canvas type
Hmm.
fabric where it's all very solid colors, and I just mix and match that with the quilting cottons or anything else that I have at hand. But I've also had the great pleasure of using these, like, it's not quite PVC, but it is waterproof fabric.
I love that bag. I think it is literally so cheery, but we all know like my love of rainbows.
Yeah,
And there's just something about that bag that just makes me happy. Like it
it
just
does.
fills me with happiness.
And that's exactly what I try to use. So like bright, cheerful colors that can be put together nicely and brings joy to everybody. Um, but I'm needing to find something that's more sustainable, I guess, because that's very a wipe clean, and you can't put that into the washing machine to wash if you need to.
Mm, okay.
Um, but it's great for going outdoors if you're going to the beach or going to a pub or I don't know, a garden or like just a area where you sit outdoors and enjoy the sunshine
Mhm.
in Scotland, which is only a handful of days.
Yeah, we had that last week. Summer's over. Did everyone get the memo there in here in Scotland? Summer's officially over now.
Oh yeah, that's the memo now. It's gone. That's why we need cheerful bags too.
Oh, I know. Like I don't think I've seen blue sky all day.
No, nor have I.
So we seem to have naturally kind of moved across to like the bag area. So
Yeah.
what about like when you're dyeing yarn? Do you have like a specific colorway that you really love to dye or specific colors you like to use?
Some of my favorite colors to use is a red.
Oh, yes.
A
I've
red seems
had some of your red yarns. I love them.
Yeah, the reds are my favorites because there's so many ways you can use it in different shades
Hmm.
naturally. I'm not even going to touch into pinks with the reds yet. It's you get what would you call them? Like a cherry red,
Hmm.
and then you can go to like the really bright reds.
Color box red.
Yeah, and then you get the lipstick reds kind of. So
Hmm.
it's acts as a base for me at some of the times because you can then splash some yellow on top to get the orange or the corals,
Hmm.
and you can splash a tiny touch of the blue to get a bit of like a burgundy kind of color or like a plummy kind of wine red,
Oh, like a nice deep color.
saturated type.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite colors because it is a base color for me.
You can just work it so well with so many different colors as well. So like you're saying with it being a base color, and then from there you can build on top of it and just
And as
have
red
fun.
is a primary color as well on the color wheel. So
Hmm.
um and red and for Chinese or Asians, it's supposed to bring you luck anyway. So go figure. And it's the red packets that we get at the Lunar New Year, which is great. But yeah, the red does go with a lot of things. It's my primary color to use and to mix and match it with the greys and play about with the other ones that I have in my dyeing stash, which have been really great. It's been enhanced by a lovely ex-dyer who sent me a great big box of their leftover dye stuff.
Hmm.
And it's filled one of those like the 3-tier roller carts.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So it's filled one of those, plus I've got another plastic box to sit on top in between the layers. And it's so easy for me just to roll all that into the kitchen, dye the stuff, and once I'm done, roll it all back out.
That
So I
sounds
don't have to take,
very convenient.
yeah. So I don't have to take everything like in several goes, which is great.
Hmm.
And it's a quick tidy up and quick setup. So it's a lot quicker now.
Which is always good because like you're a very busy person. Like you're a very busy woman. You always have something going on.
Yeah.
And if it just makes that cleaning up process or tidying everything away that little bit easier, then that's really good because you're so like I keep saying the word busy, but you're just so busy. Like you're always going places and doing things. So having that convenience to just pack everything away and just tuck it away.
Yeah, and for context for the audience, I help run the family takeaway business as my main job, and that's a nighttime job. So I get up late in the day as such, so I don't really have much time for dyeing, and so I do need to dye. It's always set up the night before, soak the yarn, and then it's ready to dye whenever I have the free time in the day. So whilst my parents are out of the house, so that they don't absorb all the yarn fumes, essentially. And I just walk around looking rather silly with a mask on. As we all do, we have to look after our lungs.
Yep, we really do. Gotta take that health and safety serious.
Oh yes, we do. So and then when I come home, it's all nice and cool. I can then rinse it and let it dry overnight, which is it's a long process for me, but I love it. And with that little ease of just clean up and set up, it helps a lot. That
Yeah.
I've got the yarn soaking, I just can just wheel it all in, chuck everything on and let it do its thing in the time that I have, and then wheel it all back out, and that's it, cleaned up. But I do clean down the kitchen tops and stuff as well.
Yeah, of course. Like I always took great satisfaction. I used to dye some yarn, and I used to take great satisfaction when you get like an antibacterial wipe, and you would just go over the counters, and then if you just looked at the cloth afterwards, like, oh, there's all that extra dye.
Yep.
It's like this rainbow of everything you dyed that day. Like, nice.
Yeah, I've done a good job here. I wonder how that translates on the yarn.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to talk about where you get some of your inspiration from. As you've talked about your heritage a little bit, just like a wee nugget of your heritage there, and I
Mm-hmm.
know that has come out in your some of your yarn collections.
Yep.
Would you say that's quite a large part of your inspiration, or do you feel like you take your inspiration from several places?
It could come from several places. There's only so much interest in the Chinese heritage from what I've gathered from the sales wise. If it's stunning colorway, it will sell. But some of the other colorways that I've sold are more of the natural surroundings, so from nature really, which has helped. The inspiration from Chinese heritage could come from any of the festivals that we have around the lunar calendar. So it'd be the Lunar New Year and the Mid Autumn Fest, which we'll touch on next. Also that's the two most colorful ones, I'd say. But there's also the fireworks as well. The July the 1st, 1997 is when UK handed over Hong Kong back to China, which is another date that not many of us want to remember. However, it's stuck in our minds. It's not a celebration or anything, but it's still part of the heritage where Hong Kong used to be a UK colony, and there's some things there that needs to be celebrated. But yeah, there are other ones that I like to tell a story. Like they're myths and stories of lovers who only get to see each other once a year for certain reasons. And that's a story that I want to bring out into yarn form at a later date. So
that wee sneak peek of what's to come.
Yeah, well, I've not got thought about that yet. But other inspirations would probably come from books that I've read, or drama series that I've read, which I'm currently working on those collections as well for future, because everything is all about planning before you actually do anything to bring it out and to do it justice, I think. I know a lot of people have done a collection of very famous or very popular drama series. Period drama has been out, but yeah, I kind of music. I have never been a music kind of girl. I I will have listened to 80s and 90s pop music, but I don't think it's everyone will have done it and done their own interpretations of it, I think, where I don't need to. But if I tried to bring any of the music that I've listened to when I was growing up from the Asian culture, it's probably a hit or miss because you may not know or have heard of certain artists or the true meaning of the song or the like the inspiration behind it as well. But again, it's in the planning stage of what to bring and how to interpret it, especially the songs. Some are a little bit harder than the others to translate to true English to bring out the true meaning of some of my favorite artists that
Right.
I've had.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the inspiration side of things.
Very nice. Okay.
Mhm.
So another question then. If you could go back to the start of your indie dyeing to your sewing, if you could go right back to the beginning of your whole journey, is there any piece of advice you would give yourself or another budding like indie dyer or sewist?
Mhm. Um, to invest in a good sewing machine.
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Having had a very cheap, I think the John Lewis one used to be able to get like 50 quid.
Mm-hmm.
I think was it 50 quid you could get those from John Lewis?
I
That
think it
was
was
my
about 80
very
quid.
first sewing machine.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my goodness, like great basic machine, great basic machine. Do not get me wrong. But now that I have a better one, wow, the difference.
Yeah. So I started sewing using one of those, not even as big as the John Lewis one. It was a small
The wee
mini,
mini, the mini. Ah,
mini one. And every time when you try to sew a straight line on it, 2 seconds, the thread breaks.
no way.
Yeah, it did. And it's like, no. So then my next step up was the John Lewis one. It worked great, but you had to be careful of the thickness of fabric that was going
Yeah,
under
I
it.
tried to
Like,
put denim through it. It did not go very well.
I didn't imagine it would be,
And
unless you
I
use the correct needles.
no, that's another thing. Like I didn't use the correct needle and I tried to put denim through it and I am genuinely surprised that I didn't get a bit of needle in my eye because it broke off.
Yeah,
It was a terrifying experience.
yeah, it is a terrifying experience to get a broken needle that's just supposed
Oh,
to. Oh, but yeah, I have invested in a better sewing machine, and it works like a gem. And yeah, I do fall out with it every now and then, but it's still working. It's done me for so many years now that it's still going strong. So that's my best advice for if anybody's wanting to sew for like project bag wise, is to invest in that and a very good iron as well.
I'm
Yeah,
not so good at that part. I really want to get into sewing clothes again.
yeah,
And the prospect of having to do all that ironing, I'm just like, oh, do I have to? But
yes and no.
I know that it's like a key point, and I'm just like, oh, I don't wanna.
So yeah, have a proper setup in for your sewing space is quite essential because you don't want to be
Mhm.
walking back and forth from your sewing table to the ironing boards and then back and do your cutting. But you have it all kind of set up nicely. You could just turn around, iron, go back onto the sewing machine. That's when you have the space for it, though. But yeah, storage is key. Um, that's it's taken me quite a while to work out what works best for me in my sewing room, in my sewing space. So I organize the fabrics by this primary color, like the background color, and then I could just pull it out as in what I need,
Mhm.
and then just cut, and that's it. I don't need to worry about anything else.
That's a good way to
work
do
for
it.
me. Yeah, rather than having to, okay, I need a red and keep going finding a red amongst all the other stuff, like by designer or the brand name or the manufacturer of the fabrics. And I just do it by color, which helps a lot.
Yeah, that does sound like it'd be a lot more easier to work around and to organize.
Yeah.
So talking about like organizing and how you work, could you talk us through like an average day in your processes and how a work day would look for you?
I don't have a typical work day. It's usually dependent on what needs done for that whole week or for that particular day. Say, for example, I've got I'll have a set day for, say, if I want to do a self-striping yarn, I'll have a set day to warp the yarn and to set up in the pots, in the jam jars, whatever, to dye them the next day. And that would just be my one task for that day, and that would take up the whole day. And I would have to work around family stuff as well. So if I work around that, I could have a full 4 hours day, which would be a lot of work. I could get a lot, and I'd be planning. So typical day, get up, have some food of some sort if I'm feeling hungry enough for something to eat, and then I'll go decide on what I need to do. If I've already been really organized following the previous day, I'll have set myself a goal of, let's warp 4 skeins of yarn, and I'll go and do that and get it all done. And then I'll have free time to do whatever else I want, which could possibly be pulling fabric out to sew with, or to cut, ready to cut, prep it, iron it, make sure it's all nice and straight edges, whatnot, all the things. And then that'll be me off to work already in a takeaway. And then the following day, it would just be doing what I've started off the previous day. So it'll be warp the yarn, I'll be dyeing the yarn, and then maybe cutting the fabric. So I do go back and forth between the dyeing and the sewing, but when it comes to a deadline, I'll work on one thing at a time. And so if I want to make 10 bags in that week, I'll make the 10 bags in that week, and then the following week it'll be the dyeing yarn that needs done, or labeling, or sending orders out. So it's not a typical day, where not every day is the same, because there'll be stuff that's thrown at me quite randomly, like doctor's appointments or emergency stuff that needs done in the house or at the takeaway. So yeah, generally I am a very busy lady.
As I mentioned earlier.
Yes. And a lot of it is quite personal stuff too.
Yeah, you have a lot in the family situation where you take on quite a lot, and I like to think that when you do your creative stuff, it's like this big outlet for you, and that it kind of goes back to that happiness thing. Like, you love to do all that making, and I feel like that's your sanctuary. That's your little sanctuary bubble.
It
allows you to get those creative juices flowing and just really enjoy it and pass on that happiness to other people.
Yeah, as you can imagine, working a takeaway is sometimes not the best situation to be in when you're dealing with angry customers, or you're dealing with frustrating customers. Like anybody that's working a customer-based job will know that there'll be some days where it's much harder than the others. And having this creative outlet is really my sanctuary. And as a friend said, but even if you're away from home, away from the takeaway, but you are still working because you're working at a festival. I was like, but that's more of my element. And it's nice to even just get away for a couple of days. I will still take it as though I'm on a holiday, even though it's a working one. Because I get to see friends, I get to see people. It's more of my element. It's more like me sharing my happiness with other people in the fiber community. Whereas I can't really share that in the customer-based takeaway where
Yeah, like not a lot of people in that situation might understand.
yeah, no, it's very hard. There's so much that I don't share on the social media just because privacy.
Of course.
Yeah. So yeah, sometimes I do look forward to getting home. It's like, oh yeah, I get to finish off X, Y, and Z bag, or I get to see how a certain skin of color words a colorway has come out in its skein form when it's come out of the dye pans. You just realize like, oh, this is actually a lot prettier because you've allowed it to cool and for the colors to saturate a bit more and to soak right in. Because I've given that enough time, it's always really not. It could be a little bit deeper, or it's like, oh, okay, I can add a little bit of more sprinkle of, I don't know, speckles. Just heat it up and just add a bit more sprinkles, let it cool down overnight and rinse the next day, which is great. But yeah, it is a sanctuary for me at times.
Yeah.
Be creative. Even if it's not working, then I get to come home and do my craft stuff.
Yeah, it's still playing with yarn and having fun with mixing fabrics and stuff together. So I always feel that that's quite a freeing. I don't want to say task. Task doesn't sound right, but it's I personally find it's quite freeing to be able to play with color and putting fabrics together.
Yeah. Believe it or not, when I was a teenager, I've always said to myself, whatever job that I end up with in the future self, I will be working with color. I don't care what medium it is, but it's got to be playing with color.
Oh, look how it came true. That's amazing.
So yeah, I didn't imagine myself being an artist. I didn't imagine myself being a graphic designer or any of that kind of stuff. No. Or maybe even photography, maybe, yes. It did occur to me. However, I think yarn dyeing and choosing fabric is quite good. It works for me. It works for me. So it makes me very happy.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we just ask a couple more business questions? I'm just worried that Zoom has not got unlimited time when it's two people. So I'll ask one more and then we can restart the session and then kind of jump into more relaxed questions.
Yeah, cool.
So why did you decide to start dyeing yarn and sewing project bags when you could have maybe gone along the lines of buying shop bought stuff, whether that's cheap bags from Primark, for example, or like other indie makers? Like, was there a specific point where you were like, this is my calling, like this is what I really, really want to do? Or was it more of a case of life just gave you this opportunity? And because you mentioned earlier at the start that you were meant to get into this with a friend, and then with circumstances it became just yourself. But was there like a lead up? Was there a specific, like, did you go to an event that maybe kind of went, oh, this looks fun?
I think the point was when I went to Edinburgh Yarn Festival by myself, not knowing anyone in the community.
I've done that before. That's scary. That's fun.
It was a very scary experience, but it was very not exhilarating. Like it was exciting to go, and being at a festival, you're just kind of absorbing all the yarn fumes and you're going around, oh wow, yeah, I think I can do this as well. And I would love to be here one day as a vendor. And seeing all the bags, like, well, I do like sewing. I've not really tried yarn dyeing. I might try that at a later date. So I'd started with the project bags because I seem to have ended up with a bunch of fabrics that I've just bought and just not knowing what to do with them. Because I always thought that I was wanting to be a quilter or like make quilts, which I still do every now and then. However, I thought bags would be more practical for my own works in progress. for friends, like as a cosmetic bag or travel bag kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt natural just to try my hand, or just wanted to let's put it out online and see what people think. And some people liked them and just bought a few, which is great, because I think when I tried looking around for bags, like, well, it was probably because my budget's not always great. Even though you can get a cheap, cheerful bag from Primark, I was like, no, because in my heart of hearts, I've always wanted to support the smaller businesses where possible.
Yeah.
And at the time, I found it very hard to find any other project bag makers, because podcast was not a thing, and I didn't know the right terminology to search for it online.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes, like, if you're not in the know, it can be very difficult to navigate.
Yeah. So yeah, there's Etsy that you can navigate, but half the time, most of them were shipping from the USA. It's like, well, screw that for the shipping.
Yeah.
Shipping cost just doubles up the actual price of the item. So I was like, well, you know what? I'll just make my own kind of thing. And I can customize it to whatever size that I like it to be, for whatever purpose that I've wanted it to be for. So I've gone from like a basic drawstring bag to more of a tote bag. I've made a big blanket size bags as well for a certain someone.
Me, I'm
Yes.
that someone.
Yeah. Which I actually quite like doing, custom made bags, because it does help engineer something else out of my head. Someone has asked me, it's like, do you like to problem solve stuff? I'm like, yes, to a certain extent. So if you give me like an idea of a bag, I will try my damn is hard to replicate it and see if I can actually make it worthwhile in bringing it out as a what do you call it, a product line, or
Yeah, I was going to say like a line of bags or
a line
something.
of
Yeah.
and as for yarn dye, I think I treated to myself to a DIY dye kit from someone as a treat. I was just like, basically, you got 2 colors that you choose from the menu, a skein of yarn, the citric acid, and various little bits and tools that you may need to use.
Oh, so
I
you
could
didn't
dye
get
those.
started with Kool-Aid?
No, I didn't.
I feel like that was I thought that was everyone's natural stepping stone was with Kool-Aid. That's how I started. I still have Kool-Aid in my kitchen, even though I've still got all my old dyes.
Yeah, no, I did start with Kool-Aid. No, because I couldn't get my hands on Kool-Aid, and I was like, nah. So I got myself a dyeing kit to start, which was great fun. I was like, there isn't anybody in Aberdeen as such yet.
Oh, that's always a good get in.
Yeah. And because I was like, I don't think I've seen any other indie dyers in the Northeast, basically. Until recent years, and I started discovering Kirsten Craft Claire. And
I love her.
She's brilliant. And I think I was at the following Perth, or was it that year that I met you, Kirsty? That year, was it that year that I met Claire as well? I think it possibly.
Yeah, I think that would be right.
I think it was that year that I met Claire, and I was like, oh, Aberdeen Shire. I was like, yeah, but I'm just like way out in Elle. I was like, oh, right, okay, that's cool. And she just shoved me right in.
Deep end. Here you go.
Yeah, she's like, just go for it. You know, and she has a passion of sharing her love of craftiness. She doesn't care if you're a fellow indie dyer or a project bag maker. You're a colleague. You're a colleague, and we've become friends that way. So it's always been great. We've always tried to support each other in whatever ways that we can with the business and the business chat at times.
So Zoom rudely cut us off.
I know.
We were talking about you meeting Claire at Cooks and Crafts and how she has been ever so kind with her mentorship, would you maybe call it?
Just a little bit. I mean, we've ever since
Obviously,
I
then
started
growing into
dyeing,
friendship.
yeah. She's helped me with a few ideas, and even just tagging along in a yarn order as well, because sometimes I don't need a full 5 kg worth of yarn. I just need a
Yeah.
1 pack. Just ask Claire's like, Claire, are you ordering? Like, yep. Can I add this? Like, yep. Cool. Arrives, pay, and I can just go and get it, which has been great at times, which is lovely, when you just need that extra pack just to keep the creative juices flowing rather than halt and figure out what to do with the rest of your stock that's sitting in boxes that's not exactly moving, shifting in any way at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the following, and as I've been going to, well, only the 2 yarn festivals really, I've seen how much similarities there is in vendors. There wasn't a very diverse show in terms of like vendors. So I thought, well, I'm not represented here. I want to have a share.
Give me a slice of the cake.
Yeah, of course I do. I mean, I knew from the start it's not a money spinner. That there is always going to be a lot of hard work, a lot of building up, a lot of like trying to get yourself out there in a way. But I've never always been about the numbers. I've always just been about being at a festival as a vendor to meet people, so it's people that know what you're talking about in craft wise, and not just be like, oh, what's that you're knitting? Or would you knit me a jumper? Or the people who would truly appreciate the hard work in hand-dyed yarn, or like a project bag, or choosing the right notion, just the right tool for the job that you're working with, kind of thing. So yeah, that's how I decided I want to start my yarn dyeing business.
Very nice. I've never actually asked you your origin story, so that's really interesting to find out.
I mean, it kind of varies from points, but it's always been either that I want to be represented at a yarn show, and not for the shows to be ticking boxes that they are diverse or inclusive now, because
Yeah.
I don't want to be that. If I want to be at a show, I will come and apply.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's how I wanted to start. And I just like dyeing yarn because it was just a creative outlet for me, out with working the takeaway. And it's always been fun. I always like splashing about with color anyway, but just not with paint.
Some people, when they want to be an artist, like, people think of the most generic thing. They think of paper, like paint and paper, or pen and paper, other different mediums. Whereas, like, if you say to someone that you're an artist and you use like acid dyes or natural dyes or whatever on yarn, they're just like, they don't think of it as art.
No,
But it is.
it is. It's just a whole different medium altogether. It's not a canvas or a drawing pad.
Yeah. Well, it's not your traditional canvas. It is a canvas. It's
It
just
is.
it's just not the canvas people think of when you say
No. Yeah,
canvas. It's like not your most traditional form of it.
it's not. It's really great fun, to be honest, and which leads on to the sock blanks, which are great fun.
I love sock blanks.
The sock blanks are great because I can paint with it.
Yeah, you really, like, that is your canvas really, because you can. I feel like you've got finer control. Like, I could be wrong. I've only ever done like kind of like dip dye sock blanks, so please correct me if I'm wrong, because you do more intricate sock blanks. It's almost like taking, and you do use a paintbrush.
I do.
Taking a paintbrush to paper.
Yep.
But it's not paper, it's yarn.
Yeah. I don't have it at hand because it's not been sent back to me, but quite recently I've had sock blanks sent down to the yarn dispensary in a local yarn store in Faversham, Kent area, where I've hand painted sock blanks with the word either love or
I have the yellow one.
I
have the yellow one.
Do you?
Sure, it's love that I've got.
If it's the original run of it all, it's all been love, because joy, happiness was just done this time round. Which is, it was great fun because I got to dye it in whatever colors I want and then just hand painted it over with either a contrast color or in black, which is great fun because it kind of lets you see how colors react to each other in that small area with whatever background that you have. So it was interesting to see if I had a red base and I used a blue dye as the paint for the characters, would it turn to purple?
It's like a wee experiment and art all at the same time.
Yes, it is, which is great. It's a true canvas. But no, I always seem to dye it first and then let it cool off, dry off a little bit before I start painting it on top again. So it's a laborious technique again. I seem to go with the laborious stuff. And talk about laborious, it's the self-striping yarn, which I absolutely love. And there are a heap of talented self-stripe dyers, but I think with my self-stripe, I'm telling a bit more of a story with them.
Okay.
So can I share them now?
Of course, show them off.
Been teasing quite a lot. So the first one.
Oh
here,
my goodness, look at those colors.
I'll move that out of the way. I'm still working on it, but it's a self-stripe that I'm hoping to bring out at Perth this year. It's 3 lots of different colorways, and it's all about the Mid-Autumn Festival, which its story originates is Mid-Autumn Fest is when the moon at night is at its fullest and brightest color of all at autumn time. And as children, we would, it also signified the autumn harvest as well for the crops for farmers. So when they did all that, we would gather the family round, and then the children or families would go out with their lanterns lit to go out for a walk or whatever, and just to admire the moon in its full glory. And they would also have things like mooncake, which is which Chris, I think you've tried before one year when I took them.
I think so, yeah.
They're square cakes, and they would be cut in 4, and inside you would find this great big, depending on how many egg yolks they put in, sometimes it's a single one or a double egg yolk inside the cake, and the outside paste is made of lotus flower seeds paste. So it's glutinous, it's sweet, it's just reminds everyone of the dark night and the moon at its fullest. So lantern walking and lotus flowers and the tins for the mooncakes were absolutely glorious. So I think this one's more of the autumn harvest kind of color, where it reminds you of, like, I don't know, the sunset, the moon, and then just a bit of olive green and teal, I think, which is nice. And that's one of them.
I think it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
I might as well show off the gobstopper in this form. So that's one inspiration. The other inspiration was the lotus flower itself, but I'm still debating about it because it's only like a 3 color. It's this brownie bit that I'm not quite sure about, because it kind of reminds me of is it Neapolitan ice cream? Yeah, but I was thinking of the green and the yellow, the pink there for the lotus flower itself, and the brown, orange, rusty brown was more for like the waters and the surroundings, like the mud, even the soil. But that one we get to just worked on a little bit, tweaked a little bit on the next run, because these are all just, let's see how they dye up and work together in a sock. So that's one of them. The other one I absolutely love.
Oh, I saw your photo of that, and I think I messaged you after I saw that photo. Like, I need that yarn.
Yeah. This is one based on one of the Mooncake Festival tins, like from a traditional baker in Hong Kong. They're a big name, basically. And it's just their tins, and how they interpret the lotus flower being the purple and the blue was more of their brand color, I think. But I will take a picture of the tin and show it off. So I'll send it to you. You can see where it was just inspiration. Like, well, I mean, everyone can do self-striping yarns using all sorts of inspiration. So I could use this as a storytelling point and bring colors together that aren't usually seen together in a way for self-stripes, or like a different combination of color, like ordered or something, is a very laborious thing to do. But I love it. I love it. So
those colors are absolutely stunning.
A lot of people have messaged me about them as well and saying those colors are gorgeous. I'm like, yeah, thank you. They will be at a certain show, a part of Festival of Yarn, at September time. But if you're around Scotland, do come around to my stall and get your hands on one, because it's going to be limited numbers, I'm afraid.
And I'm going to have one of each.
So does that mean I have to dye extra?
Yeah. I thought you already knew that.
I did, but you know,
we can discuss afterwards.
Yeah, it depends on the workload, and I do hope to have quite a good number of them, but who knows? They may sell out. I hope so.
Let's keep our fingers crossed, shall we?
Yeah. But the whole for the stall, I'm hoping I can set up in a different way, in a sense, but I don't know. I need to work on some things and see what I can use to display stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the exciting part about upcoming colorway sets
that you can show us and tell us currently.
Yeah, other things are still in the planning station to be done. But anyways, I do get project bags as well. The favorite sizes are probably one of these large.
I like your large bags, yeah.
Yeah, these ones you can definitely fit in a sweater size, or possibly a small baby blanket.
Definitely a small baby blanket, yeah. Or at least, even if it's not like just the start of a blanket as well.
Yeah.
Like sometimes things get too big for bags and you're less likely to take them outside. But like sometimes you want somewhere, even if it's just to store the yarn.
Are you just grabbing all your minis and just dump them on the one bag?
Yeah. I've definitely been that person in the past that I've literally just used project bags to put minis in so that they're all in one space. So they definitely come in handy.
Yeah. Was there any other questions?
There's a couple more that are less kind of like work related, business related, and it's just more kind of like chatty and informal. So obviously we know that you do some sewing for project bags, and we know that you dye yarn, but what other crafts do you partake in?
Cross stitching.
You are an avid cross stitcher. You were the one that introduced me to, who is it that does that full coverage, big pieces?
Heaven and Earth Designs.
Heaven and Earth Designs. Yeah. You introduced me to them, and I think those are insane, like good insane. Just going to point that out, good insane. But you always have one of their designs on the go, and they're not small. And they are not small.
They're not. They are like a wall picture hanging, like fill a wall space kind of size. That's to Deanna of Love Bugs Yarns.
Oh yeah, there's always somebody to blame.
Yeah, and I love how this podcast is mentioning so many other makers.
That's what we do. We pick
Yeah,
people up.
we do. So yeah, her and one other good friend of ours, Tori, she obviously shot me in other cross stitch stuff too. As in making portrait like vinyl front cross stitch bags.
Oh yeah.
And hand dyeing Ada fabric.
Yeah, you just started getting into that, didn't you? Your last shop update had those exact two things in them.
Well, not the fabric, but the floss.
Sorry, yeah, floss, not Ada.
I've got the floss
I
as
got
well.
confused.
Yeah, the floss is great because that is another creative outlet of a different form, because you don't have to do as much preparation with them. It just needs a lot of time.
Right, okay.
The whole process is slightly different from the acid dyeing, which is great because you can just dunk it into a pot of dye and let it sit for a couple of days and it'll be fine. And take it out, rinse it, and let it dry, and rinse it out properly, and it's done. Well, you have to put in your fixative stuff in as well.
Yeah.
But you're not having to wash it over the stove or anything. You just let it sit at room temperature and you're all good.
Oh wow, I
Great.
didn't know that.
Well, it's just great. It takes a bit of time, but yeah. Talking about this,
Look at that vinyl.
it's kind of shiny.
That is an amazing shimmer.
And the backs, where you can really let the fabric do its talking.
Very nice.
But that one's for me. But yeah, that's the project bags that I have for cross stitchers, where you just want everything nice and flat. The floss, the patterns, the fabric itself, it just goes in quite nicely. Which is something I've just started dabbling into, but we'll see. Because it's much easier, I think, to a certain extent. But other crafts that I dabble into is dressmaking, which is sewing again. Because I find
really beautiful pieces.
And there's many more to come.
Yay!
It takes time, but I quite enjoy the process of discovering how you can alter a simple pattern, making the alterations to fit you and you only.
Yeah.
Because everybody's body shape and size is totally different, wildly, and how it hangs on your shoulders and how it shapes your body or clings, well, not cling, but like figure hugging kind of clothing, or as loosely fitted as you like, which is your own choice. And with sewing, it's got its cons as well, because when you go to shops and you're trying to find ready to wear items, you find the flaws in those ready to wear items. You just think, is this sitting right on me? Is there a gaping bit at the back of where the neck is? Because I find I've got a shorter length between my shoulder to shoulder, and the back generally is a lot smaller than the average. So there's always going to be that gaping bit, or it just doesn't sit right at the front or the back. Because you know how sometimes you wear a top and it just rides up and up and up on the front. It's just not sitting right, or you need the extra length in the body to allow to cover your tummy or like your bust or any other, trying to use a positive word here, curvier parts of the body. So yeah, everyone's body shapes are different, which I find very great that you can alter these patterns to suit you.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is great. Or you can add on bits and pieces here and there if you like a certain design, and you add a bit of a ruffle or a puff sleeve or
add pocket.
pockets. And for ready-to-wear dresses now, I think, and even skirts, I find are a little bit too short for my liking.
Mhm.
They only just come as low, just enough to cover your bum,
Yeah,
which I don't like.
that's not a dress. That's a
It's
tunic.
not a dress. No, it's just no. I like skirts to be that's knee length,
Hmm.
knee length, or just below knee length, which is great for me. So in a sewing pattern, you can not only alter that. Great. Then choosing your own fabric is the best part.
Yeah, because like I feel like the the fashion industry is so hit and miss. Like you'll get maybe like one season where you're like, oh, those colors, like I like the fabrics they're choosing, I like the colors and stuff. And then you could get like 5 seasons in a row and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Whereas when you sew your own stuff, yes, it's more time. It can be more costly. There's no denying that. But we are in a crafting industry where a lot of it's going to end up being more expensive than buying fast fashion.
Yeah.
And you can go out and you can get what you want and not just have to be like, right, okay, I'm settling for what's in the shop.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Recently, I think a couple of years ago, I went to one of my local shops and she had this nice woolly fabric that was donated to her to sell as fabric in the shop, and but to raise money for a charity at the same time.
Oh, lovely.
That was really nice. And because she did that, it's like, well, how much was there? I think that was about 3 meters of it for £45. Could not complain. It's like, I would like that, thank you very much. And I got a jacket out of it. And I've still got heaps left.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know that £45 is not for the business, it was more for a charity, raising money for I think it was like a horse related charity or like animal related. It's like, well, that's fine, here you go. And £45 was what I spent on it. And it was great. And I actually have made a jacket out of it. That's quite
And you'd
nice.
probably spend about £45 on a nice jacket.
Yeah. And I mean, even for the lining, I used lining that I had left over from previous projects.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked and it's lovely. And I probably want to make a second version
Ooh,
using a pink wool.
interesting.
It's like a candy pink, I think it is, but it's nice. I like it.
And that's the main thing, as long as you like it. You don't have to
Mhm.
like, nobody else has to like it apart from you. You're the only one that's going to be wearing it.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the colors that you sometimes find in the shops are just like black, gray, tan, beige. Like,
Mm,
because in wintertime you want to be cheery, don't you? So why not wear a pink coat?
exactly. Like you know my love with neons and bright splashes. Yes, I'm wearing a very dark gray cardigan and a black tank top, but I still like my splashes of color. And sometimes shops just aren't there.
No. So yeah, that's what I love about dressmaking is you pick your own fabrics to suit your own taste and your own wardrobe. And then you can knit or make other pieces to go with certain pieces in your be made wardrobe.
You make your jumper.
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
This is the So Faded Sweater by
Oh,
Andrea Myrie using
I
yarn
thought I
from,
saw a fade on the sleeve.
yeah, from Trelise.
Ooh, lovely.
I can't remember all the colorway names, but she did has a fade, it has a yarn pack ages ago. And I think I bought 3 of them already. And then there was that retreat out in Rhodes.
Hmm.
So I asked Eva if she could pick me up the other 2 colors from Liz.
Hey, if our friends are not willing to be yarn mules, then we gotta have some serious questions.
Yeah. So yeah, I asked Liz, could you dye me up these other two colorways and pass on the email, please? And they were happy about it. It's like, okay, fine. So yeah, it's I think it's the merino singles base that I've got here. So I have to be very careful with it whilst wearing it, because it will peel, it will probably shred like it will get worn, like wear and tear will show very quickly.
Yeah.
Much quicker than a merino and nylon base. So
or even just applied yarn in general, like singles normally is the first one to show wear and tear.
yeah. So I'm being very careful with this one, and it's nice and cozy.
Nice.
But yeah, certain making pieces to go with certain, like making a sweater or a jumper to go with like a skirt or a dress that you've made is quite satisfying. Like for me, I know I get very excited when I know it's a day off, or if I'm going out somewhere really nice, then I'll think about what I'm wanting to wear, and it's usually a made item and what can I pair with it. And my current favorite outfits of all times is I've made as not a full circle skirt, but a box pleated skirt piece that's very bright and colorful. It's very abstract print, so you get splashes of blue, pinks, reds, greens, and a bit of golden yellow and white. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I specifically knitted an Ama sweater in blue.
Love an Ama sweater.
With the multicolored pearl stitches around the top on the yoke. And it works perfectly fine as a outfit. And that's one of my favorite outfits to wear. So if you see me at yarn show or anywhere, you'll know I'm wearing my favorite stuff.
That and you wear your Doc Martens, so yeah.
Yeah.
They stand out as well.
Oh yeah, the Doc Martens are a must, aren't they?
Definitely.
So yeah, the sewing part, the dressmaking is always makes me happy.
And then you're an avid knitter as well. Do you crochet? You do, don't you? You dabble.
Teeny bit dabbled. I've still yet to make myself anything in crochet because I think I don't get round to it I don't pick up as much as I can. Like there'll be stitches where I think, am I doing this right? Does this look right?
Yeah. And then I think what doesn't help a lot of people that maybe only dabble in crochet is that you've got the US terminology and then you've got the UK terminology.
Yeah.
And that even to this day, and I've been crocheting for over 10 years, still throws me off.
Yeah, it does. And it's like, is this looking right? Or is this the right height? Or is this the right type of fabric I'm supposed to be creating with this? So I've only really crocheted blankets.
Love a crochet blanket.
Crochet blankets are the best because you don't have to worry about tension. Whereas right now I've been trying to work on getting a gauge right to make a crochet sweater has a sample.
Oh, lovely.
Sorry, bending down. Out of the Mood It magazine, issue 1. The sweater that I want to make is the high wire. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Wow, that's so pretty.
And that's the other one there. Another picture of it
really
from the
nice.
magazine. But I've been struggling to get tension right with the hooks that I've got in my stash.
Okay.
Until I've asked a few friends, like, hey, I'm not getting tension. What else can I do to change? And they suggested changing the material of hooks that you're using.
Okay. So what were you using? Was it a
metal hook? Metal hook, plastic hook. Wasn't getting engaged right. In the range of hooks that could possibly be used to make this garment. And they suggested using a wooden one or a bamboo. I'm like, okay, fine. So I've searched for those. So hopefully those ones help me to get the right gauge for crochet. because I don't want to mess up the tension too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I have too many stitches or too little stitches in knitting, I know what to do. But for crochet, I'm not quite sure if I can fudge it one way or another.
Yeah, it can be quite difficult with crochet.
Yeah. So I don't want to mess about too much with that. So hopefully I can be a better crocheter one day and make that sweater.
We will check back in and see how that goes.
Yeah, you'll find out at birth.
Oh, was that when you wanted to sample for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Other than that, I've also dabbled in spinning.
So you do. Have you
Mhm.
done any spinning recently?
Nope, nothing for True de Fleece. My spinning
Not
wheel is
everyone needs to do Tour de Fleece. Like they hear a lot of people talk about it and they're like, oh, is this something we must do? When in actual fact, it's really, some people don't like it. Some people don't like the kind of not regimental, but like the structure of it. Like you have to spin every day. But
yeah.
like I thoroughly enjoyed it this year because I set myself the challenge of spinning every day because normally I kind of fall off the wagon halfway through.
Yeah.
But it's not for everybody.
No, I've even tried spinning for 15 days each day for a week, and that still doesn't work for me. It's just when you're in the right mood for it, you take the
Yeah.
spinning with like, yeah, you then start like spinning, which is great. But I've just dabbled in it, you know. But I think that's all the other crafts that I do.
I'm sure there's something will come to mind maybe later on that you're like, oh
But yeah,
yeah, that I forgot that was even a craft I done.
yeah, there's so many craft supplies surrounded in this room. It's unbelievable. I was like, I don't need any more.
Really, everyone needs more.
Mm-mm.
No, I'm kidding. Like sometimes I feel like I have too much and it's just a wee bit too overwhelming.
It is.
Okay, so
Right.
let's do one last question, and it's really more of like a self-promotion. So obviously I'll be putting in the description box below where everyone can find you, which includes your social medias and your website, which is where they can buy all your beautiful items.
Yeah.
But where, like we've mentioned Perth, would
Yeah.
you like to promote your stall for Perth and
Uh-huh.
any other things that you can divulge with us?
I had nothing else lined up after Perth, to be honest. There is wool at Port Soy on the 27th of August. And that's further up north of Scotland. If you're in the regions, the Highlands regions, I'd say, or the northeast, please come and see us because there'll be a few of other indie dyers, and fingers crossed is a lovely day for venturing out. And then there's Perth Festival of Yarn in September, the 10th and
9th and
11th.
10th? Was it 10th and 11th?
10 and
Okay.
11, yeah. The Saturday and Sunday there's a wonderful lineup of fringe events too.
Mhm.
And thereafter, I have nothing lined up. Possibly maybe one other collaboration to do for the winter time.
Lovely.
But I still need to, that's still a TBC thing.
Okay. Well, I'll put the links to your social medias, and from
Thank
there,
you.
you're a very regular poster, so people will be able to get updates from your social medias and also just from following along with your website and your shop updates. I know
Yes,
I
thank you.
certainly keep a regular eye on them.
Wonderful.
I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. You have been our very first interviewee.
Yay!
And it has certainly been really interesting to get to know more about yourself and your business. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanking you for having me, and I'm so privileged to be the first one. Or the guinea pig.
Both.
And I may regret doing this because it's so cringy.
Oh well, we'll go with it. What's a wee bit
We
of
will.
cringe between friends?
Yeah. And hey, you never know, it might throw me into the podcast world.
Ooh. Would that be something you would dabble in?
I
Would you
possibly want
come
to dabble
join
in it.
us?
It's been in the thinking, but it's the time consuming part of editing.
Some people don't edit.
Nah, no, but it's me. And the thought of other people finding me on YouTube is just a little bit horrifying right now.
Is it really much different from them finding you on Instagram?
Yeah, that's because I
You
don't
do
have
you
to.
do live videos on Instagram?
Not a lot, not as much as I used to.
Right, okay.
Because Instagram changed a lot of things there for live videos, and I don't like them.
They change everything, don't they? They ruin Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Yep,
whole other topic.
it is. So let's not dive into that right now because my brain's like, nope, nope.
Well,
Um, Thank
sorry.
you very much for having me.
That was so awkward there. No, honestly, thank you so much for joining us. And like I said, all of Ellen's details for where you can find her are going to be in the description box below. So feel free to give her a follow on Instagram. Are you on Facebook? You are on
Yes.
Facebook.
Yes.
And certainly go check out her website. And if you're coming along to Perth Festival of Yarn, please make sure you stop by her stall because she's going to have some wonderful things. And don't you dare buy all those self-stripers before me.
I can't promise anything.
That's fine. Thank you so much for joining us, Ellen. I hope you have a great
Right.
time at your 2 festivals coming up.
Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.